ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the In Too Deep podcast. I'm joined today with a friend of mine, Ms. Zoe Dunlea, hailing all the way from the Bondi Bubble. Prior to that, all the way from Ireland. Zoe is a mindset coach and NLP practitioner. She helps people control their thoughts, feelings, emotions, anxiety. So thanks so much for coming on today, Zoe.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for inviting me up here out of the bubble.
Yeah, okay. It's a big trek for you across the Spit Bridge, Harbour Bridge, a lot of bridges.
Yes.
One thing I like to ask my guests as we get started, I can give you a little intro, but you know yourself best. So tell the people, who is Zoe Dunlea?
So again, thanks for having me. Hello to everybody that's listening. My name is Zoe. Obviously, I'm a mindset coach, NLP practitioner, and in a very brief nutshell, basically what I do is I teach my clients how to control their thoughts, control their emotions, become a lot less reactive and snappy, all of those little moments that we get caught up in day-to-day life and everything. And I also help them communicate more effectively. So to be able to set better boundaries, have conversations that, remain conversations and don't escalate into arguments. And yeah, just be able to speak up for themselves and, effectively communicate with friends, family, partner, colleagues, employees, employers, all of that stuff.
Okay, it's something that obviously I don't think a human on the planet would not benefit from.
Yes.
Having these skills. So why don't you tell us, how did this journey start for you? How did you land where you are today to become a mindset coach and NLP practitioner?
So basically my own journey is a very messy one, but it's one that I think a lot of people will relate to. So I suppose when I was younger, there was some abuse in my childhood, some physical and emotional abuse, and that led me to just have a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of, I suppose, issues growing up in terms of performance in school, behavioral performance and all of that as well. And with those beliefs, then it just very much impacted me, kind of, okay, go in, you have to be the bully if you're not going to, if you don't want to be bullied yourself, I suppose you have to go in and be the bully. So, which is a hard enough thing to, admit to, out loud, even in your own mind, that can be a little bit of a challenge. And that led me then down a further path of not believing myself, very low performance in school, was on the dole for a good couple of years as well, wasn't doing very much in my life, substance abuse, very little to zero self-worth. And one day I just remember just being like, what are you doing with yourself? Like, why are you letting people treat you like this? Why are you treating yourself like this? Why are you putting this drugs and alcohol in your body all the time? And I was just like, I need to do something with myself here. Like, I need to change something. Didn't know where I was going to start. Didn't know how I was going to do it or anything like that. But I was just like, you just need to do something here, Zoe. And relationships and everything were impacted, my jobs and everything like that. I was just really, really, really struggling. And one of my biggest wake-up calls, and this might sound a little bit of a weird one now for people, but was a friend of mine. She was in a very happy relationship and I was so unhappy in my life. I remember wishing that her and her partner would break up because I was so filled with jealousy and just sadness and I could not control my emotions at all. And like, this girl was one of my best friends. And like, to even admit that, like, that I wanted my friend to break up with her partner, I remember just thinking like, Zoe, like, you can't be wishing stuff like that in your friends. Like, how can you have that much, hatred for your friend that you don't want them to be happy? But it was just, that was on me. Like, I was so jealous. I was so unhappy. I was filled with so much negative emotions and was just not unhappy with my own life that I was wishing negative things in other people. And that was a massive wake up call for me where I was like, no, you have to do something here to sort yourself out. And I was like, right, okay, I'm just going to start with, going to start reading a little few books. It's kind of like, a few things that we all kind of start with. So I was like, okay, start with a few little books. I read The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, which is very much a basic bitch book, I think, when somebody's getting into their personal development.
That's honestly one of my favorites, and maybe my most reread book. I have all different colors highlighted through it, like, because every time I go I use a different highlighter, and I always find myself during tough times going back to The Power of Now. So like it is basic bitch, but there's a reason why it's
exactly
it's
it
so
works.
Popular.
If it's cliche for a reason. 100%. Yeah. Started doing yoga, started doing meditation, things like that, and I was like, oh my god, like, this is really, really, really helping me. And I remember road rage is a massive thing that so many people struggle with. And anger was definitely my default, and I remember I was reading that book. I was like a couple of chapters in, and I remember going into park in a busy car park before work, and I remember somebody took my parking space, and the old me would have been so reactive with that, you know, straight away, like effing and blinding, you know, like giving them the finger.
There's no Irish people swearing.
Aussies and Irish, we definitely have that in common. We love a swear word. But after I read that book, I was like, there's no point reacting like that. It was just one of those moments where I was like, oh, it was just the penny dropped. Oh, life doesn't have to be as hard as I was making it before. It was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, there is another way to live. You know, like, you don't have to be this way. You don't have to be, you know, like the victim to yourself. Because that's what I was. I was a victim to my own self, like, you know, and I was blaming everybody else for my, you know, things that were going wrong in my life when it was all down to me. And once I then kind of really started to see that there is that other way, I was like, okay, right, I'm really going to go all in on this. Then lockdown happened, and was sitting there, and I was like, right, I'm bored. You know, I'm not doing much with myself, and was just like, look, I'm just going to give this thing. Came across like this free little course. It was like a 7-day course for mindset coaching, and I absolutely loved the content. I ate it up, went all in with it, finished the course in like 3 days, and I was like, right, I want to do this. So I applied for a scholarship program with a place in America, got my scholarship. That's where I got my qualifications, and I just ran with it. And it's just been like an absolutely amazing journey since. I'm coaching now 5 years, and it's brought me all around the world. I've lived in, obviously, Sydney, I've lived in Dubai, Tenerife, Bali. It's brought me all around the world. It's given me a great quality of life. But the biggest thing for me is I'm helping people like myself before, past versions of me, become their best version of themselves, basically. So that's
unreal. So it sounds like you had like, you know, so step one is the awareness, right? You're aware that you had an issue, you're aware that you weren't happy in the life that you were living. Step two is, I guess, a complete overhaul. Like you read a book and yoga and everything. So I guess you were just fed up and yeah. So like, is there any advice to anyone listening who might be struggling, you know, in a bit of a rut at the moment? How can they, because it's all well and good to, you know, if someone is overweight and wants to be healthy, you tell them to eat less and move more. It's all well and good to tell people what to do, but like, how can they really put a plan into action and start seeing some momentum in the direction they'd like to be in?
First thing I would say, this might sound a bit of a different one now, is drop the ego. I think a lot of the time people don't want to like admit that maybe it's themselves that are keeping themselves stuck. Because I think that's a big thing. Like, even me saying about, you know, like, because I didn't want to be bullied, I thought I had to bully in school because of things that went on in my childhood. I don't like admitting stuff like that out loud publicly on a podcast.
Yeah,
you know, like
bullying.
it's, you know, like it's not nice. But like, my ego was like, don't admit that. But like, that for me is a big part of me being able to move forward, because it's like, I'm taking responsibility, I'm taking ownership. So I think that's the biggest thing, first of all, is like, drop your ego and take responsibility. Like, if there's something going on in your life that you're not happy with, if there's something, you know, that you feel like you're struggling with, just admit that it is okay to ask for help. It is okay for, you know, to get somebody in to help you with things. You know, things are hard, you know, like, life is difficult. So asking for help can be a big thing that will help people. I would just say, just start dipping your toe into different avenues, you know? So if it is something like fitness, okay, figuring out what type of fitness you like, you know? So not every person is going to be going into the gym 5 days a week. Some people hate the gym, and that's fine. And if you're forcing yourself to go to the gym all the time, you're not going to do it long term, really, are you? So start dipping your toe into different things. Maybe you prefer going into, you know, like CrossFit style training. Maybe you prefer going to a run club. You know, maybe you prefer, you know, like just going for walks, and maybe going to, like, you know, one Pilates class a week. Figuring out what you like, you know, start dipping your toe into things. Because the most important thing is enjoying the journey. I know that's such a cliche thing again to say, but if you don't enjoy the process, you're going to really struggle with it. Like, you know, that would be the first thing that I would say to people. Drop your ego. Second thing would be to start dipping your toe into different avenues. And third thing is stay consistent with your movement forward, you know, and understand that messy action, you know, like going, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you're still moving forward though. So continuing on, even though it might not be the smoothest of journey, because let's be real, you and I both know it's not a linear journey. It's not a simple journey, but just continuing to show up for yourself in the smallest of ways, because that's the biggest thing when it comes to mindset. the smallest tweaks will all add up and they all make the biggest difference.
Yeah. It's all about baby steps, right?
Yes.
And like you said, just one day at a time, little by little. You know, if you get 1% better every day,
Yeah.
you know, that's all
Yeah.
we really need to work on. So people who come to you to work with you, where are they usually having catastrophic events and then finding themselves, you know, booking in a call with you? What's going on? Are they a bit curious about mindset and sort of help? So what sort of clients do you tend to deal with and attract?
Some people, they mightn't even have anything hugely, massively going on. They're just like, I just want to live life happier. You know, some people are just there and they're just like, I just want to, you know, continue to just improve. I had a girl start me a couple weeks ago and she was just like, things are good, but she was just like, I just want to be better. And I was like, love that. And then other people then, I've had people like, you know, who have become, unfortunately, they've become like a hermit from their anxiety because they cannot leave their house. Their thoughts and their emotions are so debilitating that they actually really struggle to leave their house. I had a client about a year and a half ago. She hadn't left her house on her own in 10 years because she was so highly anxious. Obviously wasn't sleeping. Was keeping herself very much in that mindset. Like, you know, and the thing is with that is like, it's not about like, okay, her being in the house for, you know, 10, 11 years on her own, never leaving the house on her own, to then being completely anxiety free. That's a very quick jump to make. So at the start, it was just like, okay, let's just maybe, you know, start focusing on your thoughts, start focusing on your emotions. And then we start taking some action steps forward. Because the thing with mindset is there's two sides of the coin. There's the external work, which is, you know, going out and doing the things. And then you have the other side of the coin, which is the internal work. So how can we get you to, you know, understand your thoughts a little bit better, you know, then become a little bit more aware of our emotions, have a little bit more emotional control. So then our behaviors are better because, as I always say to people, like the thoughts are the baseline of everything. So if your life is looking a certain way that you are not happy, that is because your behaviors are leading you to that life. And what's dictating your behaviors? Your emotions. What are dictating your emotions? Your thoughts. So everything starts with the thoughts. So thoughts dictate your emotions dictate your behaviors dictate your quality of life. So it's almost like that full circle thing. Then if your life is feeling a certain way, it's going to give you more negative emotions. So it's all about really starting with the baseline of your thoughts. Okay, so that's like the internal work. And then the external work then is like, okay, if we want to get you to be more comfortable and confident leaving the house, okay, let's get you to go out just for like a quick little walk around the block on your own, or even just walk for 5 minutes one way, walk for 5 minutes back. You know, just those two little things. So that's the thing about mindset. There's the inside work and the outside work, the internal and the external. And they both link up then and become, you know, that's how you become your best self, basically.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about how people can work on their internal. Because like external, we could talk about going for a walk, doing yoga.
Yeah.
How can people catch themselves before they are reactive, and what can they do to work on their internal side?
So what I would say is, first of all, identify what your problems actually are. Because the thing is, like I say to my clients, I can't solve the problems if I don't know what your problems are. I can't take my car to the garage. It's not working. Bring my car to the garage and go, fix that. How much will it be? The mechanic has to look at the car, has to look at the engine, see what's actually going on before you can actually, you know, solve it, basically. So let's identify your problems. Identify then where your problems are actually coming from, because that's a big thing. And then third thing is really start to understand, how are you reacting to those problems then? Because a lot of the time our problem is not the problem. A lot of the time our problem is how we react to our problems. And I think that's a big thing that people can really, you know, misunderstand. So we all hear of people, you know, who move jobs a lot of the time. They think that it's their boss. They think it's their colleagues in this place, and they move. And then 6 months later, they're in the exact same position, but just in a different job. And it's a different boss is the problem. And after a while, you kind of start to say, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the problem, you know, like. So it's about really understanding what your problems are. So getting to actually understand where those things are coming from. And then when you know where they're coming from, okay, what do we need to change? Do we need to stop, you know, this thing you have in your life? Do you need to stop, you know, going to this place? Do you need to stop having this habit? Whatever it is, this person. And really start looking at that. And then start identifying, okay, well, like, how am I reacting to it? Because a lot of the time, as I said, our reactions are going to give us the biggest blowback of all. Because think about, let's just say anxiety. Anxiety is not nice. Or even anger, right? Like, if you're feeling anxious, like, you don't have to like actually be anxious. Like, you know what I mean? If you're feeling an element of anxiety, you don't have to be anxious. If you're feeling anger, you don't have to be angry. you know, we do have tools in place, you know, that we can do to actually process those emotions rather than just letting them consume us and us, you know, just snap and just go with that and just, you know, absolutely spiral. So, yeah, it's all about really understanding, you know, what are you actually thinking? Then how is that making you feel? And then how are you reacting to that, which is where those behaviors come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So understanding what your problems are, really start looking at it, because a lot of the time we can almost put the blinkers on and be like, no, whatever, you know, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to say what my problems are out loud because we don't want to be negative and we don't want to dwell on things. But if you keep on avoiding your problems over and over, those problems are going to get bigger and bigger. And at the end of the day, like if you have these problems and you're doing nothing about them, of course life isn't going to feel good. Of course you're going to be feeling and thinking negative things all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And so talk to me, you mentioned some negative emotions, and I think, and I myself dealt with this, like I tried to push away any negative emotions, any anger, any anxiety, this is bad. How do you recommend people deal with negative emotions? Something that I think I dealt with is a lot of toxic positivity. So if I was feeling a negative emotion, I'd be like, oh, Mr. Personal Trainer, got to be positive, everything's okay, your life's great, stop whining. How do people deal with negative emotions? What's your recommendation?
So what I would say is, first of all, is accept that you are going to feel that way some of the time. And good. Like if you don't feel anxious over certain things in your life, like maybe you are maybe even a little bit too laid back, because maybe you're a person who's so laid back or horizontal, and then, you know, things build up and shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? We all know people like that, you know, are a bit too laid back and then everything kind of goes wrong. Sometimes in life, like you should feel anxious. And same with anger. You know, like there are times in life where we should feel angry, you know, like, and rightfully so. So it's not a case of like, you know, suppressing thoughts and emotions, as you were saying, like toxic positivity, because if you suppress the negative emotions, you're suppressing all emotions, and that's when you become numb, and that's a whole different problem to solve. So I would rather somebody be a little bit too emotional rather than not emotional at all, because that's actually harder to actually solve. So yeah, that'd be the first thing. Second thing that I would say is start understanding something that I bring my clients through called spiraling, which is basically where we think one negative thought or we feel one negative emotion and we let it ruin our day, ruin our week, ruin our month. You know, that was definitely me. Anger was my default straight away. You know, everything came out of me as anger. And if I felt anger once in the morning, my day was dictated by that thing, basically. And yeah, moving forward then from that is labeling the emotions, like really understanding like that you actually do need to identify what you're feeling, because if you don't know what you're feeling, if you don't know what you're thinking, how are you ever supposed to be able to actually move forward? So like, okay, think about it like in a relationship. Two people are in a relationship, and if you're never communicating with the other person how you feel, they're going to think everything is rosy in the garden, everything is great, when it's not. And they're going to continue behaving how they're going to behave because you haven't told them what is wrong. It's the same with ourselves. You know, like we need to actually really look at ourselves, really reflect and understand, what are we thinking? What are we feeling? And actually start labeling those things. So if you're walking down the street and you start thinking a certain thought, it's perfectly fine if in your head you just say anxiety, anger, just start labeling it. And it sounds so simple that it sounds like it would not work at all, that it would be so unhelpful. But sometimes it's the simple things that actually can really, really make the biggest change. I think we as humans, we like to do this thing where we're like, no, it can't be that easy. It has to be something more complicated. It's like people with fat loss. People are like, what pre-workout should I take? What BCAAs should I take? Instead of, you know, getting out for steps, having good sleep and managing their stress. You know, it doesn't have to be actually this massively complicated thing, which a lot of the time people like want it to be. I think it's an ego thing. We're like, no, it's more complicated for me. You know, I can't do that because of this. When a lot of the time it can be simple. And you know what? Good. If it's simple, great. Like that's amazing if it is simple. You know, and hold on to that and go with that. If it is simple, it's easily solved then. So yeah, start actually labeling your emotions, start really understanding, you know, what you're actually thinking and feeling. And then from that, then just becoming a lot more empowered with your reactions. So, and this is obviously a very brief outline on it. You know, this does take a little bit of time. As I say to people, it does give yourself a little bit of time. If you've been reacting this way for months or years, it's going to take more than, you know, a week to stop these reactions. But you start becoming a lot more empowered in yourself. So I nearly have like a little joke that I have with myself sometimes in my head, which probably makes me sound a little bit crazy, but we're going to go with it anyway. Is like, I would say to myself, like, are you going to let one little thought ruin your day? Like, are you actually really going to be that, you know, like silly that you're going to leave a small little thought ruin your entire day? Like you're, what? And I know that might sound a little bit crazy, like, but it's kind of like, if you think about it, what's a thought? It's just a string of words in our mind that has just come together to form a sentence, and we're going to let that sentence ruin our day. What? No. Like, and I know that might sound a little bit strange, but just becoming a lot more empowered and like, no, I am way better than that I'm going to let one little thing like that ruin my day. You know, like, no, not a hope. And I think it's just about thinking about, you know, do you want to react this way? You know, I remember having a moment a good couple of years ago where I was living with my partner at the time, and I remember I came home from work and he was after cooking us dinner, and I'm a bit OCD with my space. I love, you know, everything like clean, tidy, of kind of OCD tendencies. And he was after spilling like some sauce on the kitchen worktop, and instead of me being grateful for him cooking dinner for us, I was angry because he had spilt the sauce on the worktop. And I remember going upstairs after at the dinner, and in the shower, you know, shower thoughts are always the deepest thoughts, having a little thought to myself where I was just like, do you want to be this person? Like, do you want to actually be the person who comes home and is ungrateful for their partner for cooking them dinner, and is instead angry over some spilled sauce, which just takes a couple of seconds to clean up anyway? And I was just like, I don't want to be that person. I really don't. So I was like, okay, then stop being that person. If you don't want to be that person, stop behaving like that person. There's no puppet master up here is making me behave a certain way. It's on me. And that sounds like that's a bitter pill to swallow all the time, because we're like, no, but it's them. It's not them. Yeah, they might have behaved a certain way, which is annoying or rude or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, I chose to be that person. I was. And as hard as that, like, once you swallow that like bitter pill, life on the other side of that gets so much easier. Yeah. So it's just all about kind of like empowering yourself, understanding your thoughts, like really, really, really looking at them and identifying them, and becoming a lot more brave, looking at your thoughts and emotions in the eye almost. Because yes, feeling angry, like feeling the emotion of anger or anxiety or whatever negative emotion you're feeling, sadness, whatever it is, feeling that emotion is not nice. Like, it's not nice. Do not get me wrong. It's not nice. But if you react to that thought or you react to that emotion, the consequences of that are always going to be far worse. So start looking at your thoughts and your emotions and start recognizing, okay, it's okay if I feel that way. Start looking at them in the eye and start thinking about, okay, do I want to respond to this in this way? Do I want to respond to it in the other way? Start thinking about who you want to be, and just understand that the consequences of you reacting to your thoughts or your emotions are always going to be far worse. Like, if you feel angry over something, pause, take a couple of seconds. That pause can be the difference between you saying something that you regret for the rest of your life. That pause can be the difference between you, on a massive scale, can be you know, getting, punishment for a crime you've done on a way bigger scale. Say if you're angry over something, you know, and you end up getting in a fight with somebody or something like that, obviously the consequences of that are going to be far worse than you just feeling anger, you know? So almost kind of start talking to yourself like, come on, like you're going to let that, you know, ruin your day. Kind of like in Ireland we say like cop on. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase.
Cop on, we say cop out, but
cop out.
Different, yeah.
Cop on would be like for us now, get a grip. That's almost what it's like.
Yeah,
so
okay.
We would say then like, cop on to yourself. And one of my clients said this to me a couple of years ago, which I loved. It was like, have a cup of cop on for yourself. So it's just like, come on, like you've got this. You're like, you're not going to let this thing ruin your day. Really? Come on, you know, like, and come on, get a grip. Come on, let's go. Let's get with it, you know. And I think it's just becoming a lot more empowered and understanding that you hold a lot more power in your life and in your mind than you really actually truly understand. But in order for you to see that, you need to start trying.
No, I totally love that. So talking like a crazy person yourself sometimes is actually a good thing. And I think there's a lot of, wishy-washy stuff on always being kind to yourself. But I honestly feel so much benefit from sometimes being like, pull your fucking head in, Jeff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What's going on?
100%, yeah.
Being able to know yourself and have a hard conversation with yourself is extremely important, as opposed to just being like fluffy or kind to yourself, perhaps, maybe.
That's the thing. Because honestly, it's something, you know, like that I would say to people when they first start working at me, like, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. Like, I will give you the tough love approach at times, because like, I don't want to keep somebody stuck, and that is keeping somebody stuck. You know, like if they want to, you know, if my clients want somebody to come along and tell them that they're right, talk to your friends. You know, like I'm not, you know, like that's not where I can't help you by doing that, you know. yeah, and having that kind of like that harder conversation with yourself, I think can be great. And that's where coaching is so powerful, because obviously, like with therapy, we can kind of go in and if people who are listening to this, have been going to therapy for a long time and they don't feel like they're, kind of like really changing in terms of like their actions and their behaviors going forward, give coaching a go. Look, it doesn't have to be me, but just give coaching with somebody a go, because the thing is with this is that I use like a cut on my hand as an example for the difference between coaching and therapy. So therapy is, okay, I've cut my hand, you go in and you clean it out, right? And you become, we're understanding, okay, like how did you feel because you have this cut in your hand, okay? Whereas actual coaching then is, okay, how did that cut happen? Why did that cut happen? How did you react to it back then? What have you learned from it? And then it's like, okay, now we leave that cut alone. Because if you keep on going in and cleaning out that cut, which is what we do in therapy, it's never going to heal. And that's the same with ourselves. If we keep on going in and talking about something over and over and over, that's just going to keep us stuck. So instead of going in, cleaning out that cut over and over again, we leave the cut alone. We understand how it happened, first of all, but then we leave it alone because we want to let it heal. And then we start bringing in things like, okay, how did that cut happen in the first place? How can we make sure that we don't cut ourselves again? How can we make sure if we do cut ourselves again that, it doesn't get infected and, we don't react to it as badly as we did before? That's where coaching can come in. And that's why I would say to people, if you have been, going to therapy for a while and you don't feel like things just aren't clicking into place, give coaching a go. And look, therapy has its time and its place, 100%. This is not me, coming in and saying therapy isn't great. Likewise, if you've been going to coaching for a good while and you don't feel like something is working, give therapy a go. You know what I mean? The two of them are very much hand in hand. The two of them are amazing, amazing tools. I've had great transformation in my own life with those things as well. But that's just to give the difference between therapy and coaching, because a lot of the time I don't think people kind of know the difference of the two of them.
Love that. Quick time. I just want to make sure your face is not covered by the mic.
Yeah.
Can you scoot over a little bit?
Yeah.
Just try to make sure your face isn't.
Yes. Perfect. I'll put this in a small bit. All good so far?
All great. Okay, back on. Okay, Zoe, we're going to pivot a little bit and we're going to talk about your life. So I want you to tell you about a moment in your life that has shaped you.
A moment in my life.
You can have multiple moments as well.
This is the thing. I think a lot of the time, when people are like, oh, like my rock bottom moments and things like that. I definitely had a few rock bottom moments in my life where I kind of thought, oh my God, shit, like I really have to change. A lot of the time, these moments were around drugs and alcohol. Definitely over the years, had my fair share of, crazy moments, and for me, it was never that I had, an addiction to drugs or alcohol, thankfully. My problems around alcohol and drugs, obviously, were post having them, so we all hear anxiety. And for me, it was just like self-loathing, which I know so many people can relate to. So a lot of my dark times were around that. And luckily now I'm in a great relationship. I have a great relationship at the moment with alcohol. I can kind of take it or leave it now, every so often, special occasion, I'll go out and things like that. So luckily I'm in a great place with it now. But a lot of the time it was around going out, partying, thought I was having fun, when in reality I was having everything but fun, and keeping myself very much down and out, basically. And I would say to people, like, if they are struggling, it's not a case of with alcohol, like that you have to give it up, because I think that's a lot of the time people can see it as like black or white. And I know Irish people, we're known for, being the drunken Irish people, like the fighting Irish and all of that. Like, so obviously our relationship with alcohol can be very much, it's a strange one, it's very much overconsumption and a lot of the time. But if people are struggling with it, understand that, it doesn't have to be a case that you have to just completely cut it out. You can consume alcohol in a very healthy way. But first of all, what I would say to you is look at why you are drinking and how you are drinking. So if you're drinking, if you're finishing work after a hard week and it's a Friday night and you're like, you know what, I'm going to stop on the way home and I'm going to get myself 2 bottles of wine because I've had such a shit week, right? You're not going to feel better because of that, really. But then on the other side of that, if you've a hard week and you went out, you met one of the girls, you stopped in, you're having, 2, 3 margaritas, you're having good chats, you're having fun, and you're going home at a nice time. You're not, like blacking out or anything like that. You can do that in a healthy way. So it's not about, kind of black or white, going cold turkey with things. It's about, understanding why you are drinking, and then how you are actually doing it as well will also be a big help. Yeah. But no, yeah, that was definitely my main issue, was definitely around drugs and alcohol over the years. Yeah, and relationships then, like keeping yourself stuck, even not even, just romantic relationships, friendships as well, like spending time around people who are fueling massive anxiety for me, so I always say to people, if you feel like when you get up from the table that people at that table are going to talk about you, get away from that table. Like if you feel like that your friends do not have your back 100%, they are not your friends. So if you're keeping yourself around people who are constantly causing you anxiety, your anxiety is never going to go if you're around people who do not have your back 100%. That'd be the biggest thing I'd say to you. I think once you get into your 30s, you definitely start to realize that as well, that your friendships are, so important. And I think you kind of tolerate less crap, really. Yeah. But in a nutshell, really, my hardest moments, definitely drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And as I said, there was no one moment where it was like, that rock bottom, in a movie that you kind of see. I definitely didn't have that. Mine was just 101 kind of rock bottom moments.
Yeah.
That all added up over time. And I was like, okay, Zoe, you got to do something about this.
Yeah, okay, 100%. So that was similar to mine. I used to have a pretty poor relationship with alcohol as well. Obliterated myself most weekends, anxiety, Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
A million times. I worked a job that I absolutely fucking hated. And every Friday in the city, 1,000 beers with all the boys. And that was on repeat. And then the self-loathing just couldn't, just one day you wake up and you're just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yes. Yes.
So, so tell me, Zoe, what is your biggest inspiration in life? What inspires you?
I think for me, it's just about recognizing that there is another way, like I know it's so cliche of like, you can do anything and stuff like that, but it's not even that I believe like you can do anything. I think it's just, you can be anybody that you want to be, like I think there's a lot of, so many people out there. I know we spoke about the ego there a minute ago, but I think a lot of the time people, they can be resistant to change because they think like, but I am the way I am, and they, as I said, that ego can kind of hold them back. And I think it's about being humble enough, like actually having the humility to say, you know what, I believed this before, I've changed my mind, and change direction. I think that's a big thing. Yeah. A second thing for me in terms of inspiration is just seeing the change in my clients. Like honestly, there are times on calls where I'm genuinely like holding back tears because I'm like, I'm the coach, I can't cry. But just when I see the transformation in them, like I'm like, fuck, that's amazing. Like people going from, I had a girl finish up with me a couple of months ago. She was having like panic attacks, genuinely like once or twice a week. Like was having to leave work a lot of the time because she genuinely was struggling so much with her anxiety. Yeah, all those panic attacks were happening. Like she was feeling so weak, so shaky all of the time. And now she finished up with me. She's actually having her final call next week. But even when we were speaking about her finishing up, she was just like, I don't even think about my anxiety anymore. Like she was like, I just don't, I don't identify as an anxious person, and stuff like that. I'm like, that's my why. Like that is my why. I put up a post the other day. I don't know, did you see it? Just about like my why and like my thing for moving forward and why I do what I do. And it's for reasons like that, and helping past versions of me, like when I needed it the most back then, because, back my hardest years were 2009, 2010, 2011. We didn't have mindset coaches back then. Personal development was nowhere near as popular as it is right now. If you went to therapy, you kept it to yourself. It was a secret, like nobody would know about it and things like that. And I know that if I had somebody in my corner back then, I wouldn't have to go through all of those years of depression, substance abuse, anxiety, zero self-worth, like being around people who treated me like absolute crap. I wouldn't have to go through all that if I had somebody like me in my corner showing me that there is another way. So that for me is my why and my inspiration as well. So helping past versions of me, because I've been there and I know it's shit. There's no other way to put it. It's shit, you know, and I just love showing people like that life doesn't have to be that way. There's another way.
So kind of expressing people onto the path that you're on, right?
Yeah.
'Cause did you have a coach when you were going through some tough times?
Yeah.
Me too.
I think people think that I'm maybe a little bit helpless at times because I have a coach I have a mindset coach, I have a business coach, and I have a fitness coach. I say people are like, can this girl do anything for herself? But I'm like, if somebody has done something multiple times for somebody else, for other people, and they're offering it to you, why would you not take their help? Like if you're walking down the road and you're lost and you're like, do you know where I'm going? And someone's like, oh yeah, I have a map there for you. Are you going to be like, no, thank you? You'd be like, yeah, I'll take the map. Same thing, you know? So it's like, if somebody's offering you their help, just take it. Like,
Yeah.
do you know, like
And you're
it's
practicing what you preach as well, right? Like
exactly.
you expect people to hire a coach without you hiring a coach. So
Exactly.
why would they do that?
That's
It's funny.
the
One
thing.
of our earlier guests said the same thing. One of the biggest game changers for her health was hiring a coach. She's like very fit, successful personal trainer as a personal trainer,
That's
writing
the thing.
programming. You know,
This thing, you have to walk the walk, and you have to be coached as well. Like as a coach, you have to be willing to actually be coached and be coachable, because then you know yourself. It's like, you know, if you've never, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like an example of this, like, but you know, you have to be the thing you have to actually experience the thing before you can actually be the thing. You know, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example now for that, but you know, it's like, yeah, you have to be coached before you can actually coach yourself as well. Like, so, and as well, it's, as I said, it's a shortcut to success.
Yeah.
It's an absolute shortcut. Like,
Yeah, agree. Tell me the last time you surprised yourself.
last time I surprised myself. Wow, that is a good question. God, you've caught me now. I'm like, God, when was the last time I surprised myself? You know what? It was actually a couple of weeks ago. So I wasn't actually driving until, I can drive. I have been driving for years and years, but I didn't actually have a car here. And I kind of thought, God, you know yourself, moving to a new place and things like that. For people listening, I'm only living in Sydney a year. And obviously it's busy, you know, like a lot of traffic, you know, roads are busy here and things like that. And I remember thinking, God, I'd be very nervous to drive. And then bought a car not so long ago, a couple of months ago. And then I was like, oh, this is actually fine, you know? So maybe not the greatest of example, because that's not exactly a huge thing. Or even just like, I suppose for me, obviously, when you first move somewhere, you have to give yourself time to settle and things like that. And I kind of, when I moved here, obviously I had loads of friends here that I met a couple of years ago, and I lived in Bali. So I kind of thought, you know, I'm settled straight away. And then I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm actually not. You know, a couple of months in, I was like, maybe I'm actually not settled. You know, maybe I actually do need to give myself a little bit more time. And, you know, kind of like push myself more out of my comfort zone. And there was things that I was going to on my own that I actually was like, oh shit, I'm actually a little bit nervous, which I haven't felt in so long. But there was a couple of times where I was like, God, I'm a little bit nervous. I went into like a personal development day in the city in January. And I had a couple of moments in there where I was like, oh shit, you know, I'm actually a little bit nervous going in here and things like that. And it's funny because like I thought I'd come so far that, you know, God, I don't get nervous anymore. You know, I'm fine. I'm confident in all these things. But then I was like, oh God, you actually do have still, you know, a little bit of nerves there, which is fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit nervous. But yeah, maybe in that sense as well, that, you know, understanding like, God, you think you've come so far and then you're like, oh wow, things like that actually do still make me a little bit nervous when I didn't before.
It's funny because the nerves never really go. And there's a Brené Brown story. I don't know if you know of it. You know Brené Brown?
Yeah.
So she tells a story. She was on some podcast or something with Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah finished the show, and she was like, no, she was like, did I do okay? Like, was that like Oprah Winfrey, this super mega successful woman, was wondering if she did okay as well. So everyone feels it. From
Love
Zoe
that.
Dunlea, Jeff Goddard, all the way up to Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
Tell people, do you have any controversial opinions on the sort of mental health space?
Yes. Positive thinking is fucking bullshit. That's the first thing. Positive thinking is the thing that's keeping you stuck. Like, if you get into the car in the morning, you're going to work, car doesn't start. Do you sit in the car and go, think positive? It's going to work. It's going to start. I'm going to sit here now. I'm going to think positive, and then I'm going to turn the key and the car is going to start. No, you do not. It's the same thing with ourselves. You have to take your car to the garage in order to fix it. It's the same with ourselves. You know, we're sitting there going, okay, think positive now, and this will help me with my problems. You know, having a positive outlook waking up today, waking up in the morning and going, today's going to be a good day, that's having a positive outlook. But if you're going through things in your life and you're trying to use positive thinking as a way to actually deal with those problems, you are going to keep yourself so much more stuck. Because think about the car. If you sit there and say, okay, it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work. How long are you going to sit in that car for? Your car is going to remain a lot longer, broken down, rather than, if you just took it to get it fixed, basically. Same with ourselves. So, we have to actually do things about it, and the thing with positive thinking is that sometimes in life, there is nothing to be positive about. Like if you're going through something horrendous, if something happens with a family member, if you get some bad news about a relative or something like that, or a friend or whatever it might be, sometimes there might be nothing to be positive about there. And if positive thinking is the only tool that you have in your toolbox, then what are you going to do then? You've literally fallen at the first hurdle and then you spiral. Then it's game over because there's nothing to be positive about, and you've been practicing positive thinking as a way to deal with things, and that's keeping you stuck. So that would be definitely my biggest thing. Positive thinking is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, positive thinking without a plan and without any action, right? And have you heard or read The Secret or seen the movie?
Yes, yeah.
So I can't remember if they mentioned this in the book or it was people about the book. People watch The Secret. It's all about manifestation, picturing what you want. And there's people sitting at home picturing $1 million check turning up in the mail, right? And then they're just like, why is it not happening? Where's the $1 million check?
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have an action in place after the manifestation part, right? Next up, this is a bit of a random one, but tell us if you could have a beer or insert any drink of your choice here with any human, dead or alive, who would it be? And I want to hear what drink you'd have as well. I'm wondering if it'd be a Guinness, just purely for the Irish background.
Do you know what? It's funny. I didn't actually drink Guinness when I was at home, but since I moved away, if there's a Guinness there, I'm like,
yeah, because you want everyone to know you're Irish, right? Yeah, you got to show off a little bit.
I'll have a Guinness. Like Paddy's Day, I had one, went into the city. My mum was actually over visiting, my mum and my sister, and went into the city, had a Guinness. Wouldn't be, it's for people who haven't ever tasted it. It's heavy and it's filling. It's like a meal.
Oh, of course.
In a drink, it is heavy. Now it's nice, but it wouldn't be for me. I would probably, for me, the drink would probably be an oat latte, decaf, because I'm on a decaf buzz at the moment. I haven't had a caffeine.
I didn't go with
Christmas.
alcohol. I like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Decaf coffee. Haven't touched caffeine since Christmas. And
Although decaf drink, I can't have caffeine. It sends me up and down real quickly. Yeah.
Do you have decaf though?
I do sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, why am I wasting my money on this? Because I'm not buzzing it.
Fair.
But I think there's a certain genotype that can't metabolize the caffeine. And I swear I have that. So I just can't.
Yeah. It was just all of a sudden one day, it was around Christmas time, I was like, I am so jittery. And I was like, was it the caffeine or is it actually just me? Like, am I just a little bit nervous, whatever? So then I had coffee again the next day and I was like, okay, no. And then I was like, and that would be very much me. If something isn't working, I'll just be like, okay. And I'll just take action on it straight away. So I bought decaf coffee for the house. I've just been having a decaf coffee every morning. But I would be a decaf oat latte with Eckhart Tolle.
Ooh, nice.
That would be my person.
So I loved
100%.
his books, but God, he seems boring. Like his voice.
Oh my God, his
on the
voice.
audio book, he probably put me straight to sleep.
His voice is so bad. But then he's kind of a little bit, he's like a dry sense of humor. I don't know if you've ever watched like his like talks and stuff on YouTube.
I haven't seen any humor of his way. No. Yeah.
He actually can be a little bit funny. Okay. But it's like dry sense of humor. Like you definitely... I think you'd need to be in the mood for it 100%. Okay. I don't think
you might have switched to decaf to a full strength then if you want to stay awake.
But yeah, decaf coffee with Eckhart Tolle would be the vibe, I think.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us about any rituals you have.
Rituals, okay. Morning. In the mornings, you have to start your day with something for yourself. I actually slipped up. I had a moment the other day where I got up, I had to check something on my phone from a client because it was an early morning call. And I got up in the morning and I checked my phone and I then sat down on the couch. I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom. It never comes into the bedroom with me. It's a top tip there for you. But got up in the morning, checked my phone and sat down on the couch and I went onto Instagram. And when I say my day just felt shite, like no other way of putting it, like it was absolutely, it just felt just off. And it just really made me remember this is why you have your morning routine. Morning routines don't have to be this 6-step, 20-step process thing, like that we're seeing. We've all seen those, viral memes that are going around at the moment with people and their, all their morning routines and stuff like that. For me, I'll get up. I will go for a quick shower, turn it to cold at the end for, 10 seconds. Go in, make my decaf coffee, sit down at my desk, and literally just do 5 minutes of deep breathing. So simple, so effective, you know, finding out what your version of that is. So for some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's breath work. For some people, it's journaling. Other people, it's yoga. Finding out what your thing is, you know, all meditation doesn't have to be guided meditation or sitting down cross-legged, you know, finding out what your version of meditation is. I love breath work. Breath work just really, really, really centers me. It doesn't have to be this massive, you know, technique or breath holds or Wim Hof stuff or anything that you're doing. It can literally just be deep breathing into your belly, pushing out your belly, you know, to full capacity and things like that. Yeah, that would definitely be my morning ritual. Second thing then that I would say would be having a form of like happiness for yourself throughout the day, where you can just do something just for the sake of doing it. So for some people now, this can be, you know, golf, going for a walk, you know, like whatever it might be. For me, like I'm a big music girl, love my music, never underestimate the power of music. So, you know, for me, I will drive down the road. I had this yesterday morning. I was driving down the road, sun was shining, and I had some lovely music, some lovely, you know, good mood music, as I like to call it. Driving down the road, it was just like that moment of gratitude over you, you know, where you're just like, yeah, I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged. I'm so grateful for everything that I have in my life. Have something in your day that's going to give you that feeling, you know, whatever it might be. And just, it might be painting, it might be golf, it might be, you know what I mean? Figuring out something for you, but having your thing in the morning where it's, you know, you're grounding yourself, you're calming yourself, and then have something throughout your day. This can be before work, on your lunch break, after work, whenever, where you just can just be, just appreciate, you know, and just get into that like grateful mindset, you know, that kind of like grateful state of mind. A simple little thing as well is literally just saying out loud, thank you. When you say those words out loud, thank you, you can't help but just start to feel a little bit better, because you're like, oh, thank you, you know, and you just kind of start to look around like, thank you, you know, oh my God, these beautiful couches, you know, like these beautiful home that I have, all of these things will just kind of start to come up for you then. So you're starting to say, thank you. Sounds a little bit silly. Sounds like it would do nothing, but give it a go and you won't be long seeing how much those small little things help you.
Yeah.
And third thing that I would say in terms of daily thing is challenge yourself somewhere throughout the day. Look, we all see people doing ice baths, saunas, you know, going on runs, whatever it might be, but challenge yourself somewhere. Because if you're not challenging yourself, it's like having a baby, you know, they're trying to take their first steps. And if every time they're trying to take their first steps, you're putting them down on the ground, how long is it going to take them to be able to actually walk? It's going to take them a lot longer. Yes, they'll get there eventually, but it's going to be a lot harder. Same with ourselves. If we want to feel good about ourselves, and we want to feel confident, we want to have high self-esteem, we need to start challenging ourselves. If we're wrapping ourselves up in cotton wool and never challenging ourselves, how are we ever going to know if we are good enough, if we are worthy?
Yeah.
So doing something throughout your day to challenge yourself 100% as well.
Yeah, and challenge, with it comes growth, right? And I think Tony Robbins says there's two things that humans need to be, you know, content and satisfied with life, is like growth, and they need to be connected as well. So finding somewhere that's going to challenge you, you can grow a little bit each day, and just doing something for you every day, something that makes you happy. And it's funny you said music, because I was actually thinking recently, I'm going through a massive music phase. Like usually I'm like a podcast, audio books, gym, walking, car, and I've fully like put pause on that now, and it's just music. It's really making me feel uplifted at the moment. So there's a whole bunch of tools.
I listening to Marabou State.
What was that?
Marabou State.
Oh yeah, Marabou State. I missed the opportunity to see them live recently.
I know, a couple of weeks ago I was like, I saw it and I was like, a busy week that week, and I was like, I really want to go, and I didn't end up going, and I do regret it.
Yeah, and I saw it on Instagram, and my friend was like, it was amazing. So yeah, Marabou State. Music for me has been an amazing tool. And I think it's an underrated one. You don't hear a lot of people recommending put on some good music and just like
it's so underrated.
Like a crazy person, which is what I've been doing recently.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. So tell me, Zoe, what would you give, if you could give advice to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
First of all, stop putting so much power in other people's hands, whether that's their opinions of you, whether that's letting them, you know, like make choices for you, trying to impress them, you know, and giving them too much say over like, you know, what you kind of do in life. That would be one of the biggest things that I would say, to stop. You know, I used to do things to impress other people. I used to really care what other people thought of me. That was a big thing. And just only kind of doing things, you know, that my friends thought would be cool, you know? That would be one of the biggest things for me, because honestly, that was actually something that I really found quite difficult initially, to really stop putting that power in other people's hands. Now I genuinely I only thought of this the other day. I was talking to somebody younger than me, and they said something about like, oh, I just feel like what would people say about me? And just sometimes it's great in coaching sessions for me because I'll have, aha moments for myself in my own journey. And when she said that, I was like, God, wow, it made me really realize how far I have come and how little I actually give a shit about what people think of me and what people have to say and stuff like that, which is amazing. And now, unfortunately, a lot of that does come with age, so there is a lot of the time there is kind of like no real shortcut. But one of the biggest things that I would say to people is start focusing on your self-esteem. Self-esteem and confidence are two different things that a lot of people get confused. Yeah. So confidence is like the external stuff. If you want to be confident at something, what do? You go and you do the thing. Whereas self-esteem is the inner stuff. So I like to use like let's just say squats in the gym. If you want to get confident at squatting in the gym, what do? You go to the gym and you squat. But with the self-esteem, basically our self-esteem is our opinion of ourselves. So if we hold a high opinion of ourselves, we have high self-esteem. If we hold a low opinion of ourselves, we have low self-esteem. And if you hold low self-esteem and a low opinion of yourself, you might identify as somebody who doesn't belong in the gym. People are laughing at me. People are talking about me. I'm just not one of those people. I can't do it. That's all comes into your self-esteem. It's all of the labels, the beliefs, the identities, all that stuff. It's all that internal stuff. So if you want to get confident at squatting in the gym, but you're identifying as somebody who's not a gym girl, I'm not a gym guy, I don't belong there, it's not my place, I'm bad at it, you're going to struggle to get to the gym in the first place, to be able to work on your confidence and get good at squatting. And even if you do get yourself to go, you won't enjoy it half as much because you're telling yourself all these horrible things, and you'll never do it to your full potential because you're identifying, as these things, and you're telling yourself you can't do it, and as well, run risk of injury as well if you're telling yourself all of these things. And it's the same with other things in life. If we want to, be a person who, can come on a podcast, like what do? I've done a fair few podcasts over the years, get better at them every time. Well, I like to think so anyway, hopefully. But, if I'm identifying as somebody who can't speak in public and, I don't talk well and all of these things, I'm going to really struggle to come here and, speak on a podcast. So, if you do want to get good at something, like you do actually have to start working on the internal stuff. So confidence is the practical, self-esteem is the theory. So, but you can only work on the practical if you understand the theory, first of all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
love that. So, going back to your younger self, I think it's something, like you said, it comes with age, right? Like we all care about what people think. I basically think I went and did a university degree because not what people thought of me, but I just wanted to go with, I was just doing what everyone else was doing. Yeah. All my friends were doing business degrees, going to get suit and tie jobs. I really loved movement. I was going to do exercise science, and I was like, that's not good enough. I need to go do a business marketing degree. Whoa. Worked in advertising and literally hated myself and like hated my life for that 1 year that I was doing that. So I totally understand.
Yeah. It's great though that you have, because again, the ego there could have came in and, we all hear of sunk cost fallacy. Where it's like, I've already committed 10 years to this.
Yeah, well, so I hated it from day one. And I go, just stay a year. Just stay. I'm like, I should have just gone in and gone, this is not for me, and left. But, you learn as you age and with wisdom.
But well done for, being like, I'm going to actually not do this. Yeah, the ego can take over there and be like, well, I have to say, and that's what a lot of people do. They're like, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been in the relationship for 5 years. I've been in this job for 5 years. I've lived in this house. It's bad, but it's not really bad.
Right in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So, and people are like, it's bad, but it's not bad enough. So, they don't do anything to change it. Whereas it takes balls to be like, you know what, fuck this. I'm actually going to go do something about it, and be humble enough to say, you know what, no, that actually wasn't for me. Yeah. Instead of, staying on the path and being miserable.
Yeah. And each time you learn to make that decision quicker, right? Yes. Whether it's a relationship, a job you hate, we've all stayed too long in things we shouldn't say. And being able to do that more rapidly definitely helps. So tell me, what's the best piece of advice you've been given and who is it from?
One of the best things that I heard, this is definitely related to business. So this was like an aha moment that I had. Who was this? It was, Dean Graziosi. Ever heard of him?
No.
He always works with Tony Robbins. Oh. I remember listening to him on Jay Shetty's podcast before. And he said, if you want, he said, you're going to be tired at the end of the week anyway, so you may as well be tired for a reason worthwhile. And I was like, oh my, and it was like a flippant throwaway comment that he didn't even kind of, and I was like, that is actually one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten. Because I was just like, if you're going to be tired anyway, at least be tired for something that you're like, I'm fucking proud of that, and I'm actually working towards something. So like, so I suppose, look, we all had, been tired at the end of the week, we all hear the phrase, tired from doing nothing. Around Christmas time, everyone's like, I'm so tired, I've just been chilling out doing nothing.
What day is it? Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. Whereas then, if you have a week where you're after nailing everything, you're after doing all your training, you've been performing well in work, you've been doing like, your inner work, you've been showing up for yourself and you're knackered, then that's like a different feeling, it's like, yes. So it's like, if you're going to be tired anyway, go and fucking do the hard thing. You might as well be tired for something where you're like, I'm actually buzzing to be tired from that rather than tired from doing nothing.
Absolutely love that. Well, Zoe, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah.
Got a lot of juice
Lovely.
from you today, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Amazing.
If people want to follow your journey, check you out, learn more about your coaching, where can they go?
You can find me on Instagram at Zoe Dunlea Mindset Coach. And I'm on TikTok as well under the same name, but trying to keep up with the kids on TikTok
Tough work, isn't it?
it's tough work. Oh my God. I'm like, I go through phases like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then I'm just like, I can't keep up with the trends. I'm like, look, I'm young at heart, but I'm not young on TikTok, let's be honest. So, but my Instagram is my main thing. And I do have a couple of free resources as well. If you click the link in my bio, and obviously if anybody does have any questions, they can book in a call with me, of course. I've free clarity call if they do want to do that, or if they just have any questions, they can just send me a quick message as well. More than happy to help in any way that I can.
How bloody good. Thank you so much, Zoe. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As always, if you got anything out of today's episode, share it with a friend who can help them out. And we will see you guys next time. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.